Okay, so let's talk about training your eye. What does it mean to have a trained eye? Well, there's trained eyes in all sorts of things. Some people it's the art world, some people it's horses. When they look at that, they bring a lot of expertise to the subject and they see a lot more there than the average person does. When it comes to chipping, hey, there's a lot of variables. The height you hit the ball, the landing spot, the situation. People that have taken time to really train their eye can accurately predict, or humanly speaking, accurately predict before they hit the shot, kind of what's required, and at the height they intend to hit the ball, what the landing spot would be. That's a trained eye. Okay, great fun there. Now, I've read where Steve Williams said as they looked at that shot, Tiger picked out a little blemish on the green, a spot literally, and he said, if I can land this club on that spot, that's where I want to land it. I think that'll do the job. And Steve said one of the most amazing things he's ever seen, he actually landed it on the spot, and sure enough, it went in the hole. Now, when you're talking about that difficult a shot and under those conditions, you're kind of at the genius level there. That's a little beyond the realm of most of us. But how do you develop something like that? Well, you develop at least some level of that for a couple of things. Number one is consistent rhythm and consistent contact. So when you know how the ball's going to perform off your club, you have a decent chance to have some sense of predicting what it will do after it lands. And then number two, you have to have just backlogged watching a lot of shots in your life. You have to be used to watching it so that your eye gets trained and comfortable with it. Now, one of the things I would suggest when you're practicing your chipping, we've done a lot of that throughout this series of videos, where it's mostly about technique, could be a drill, could be just feedback on making solid contact. To practice this, you've got to clear a part of the green. Now, I'm here on the golf course, but if you've got a practice area, clear part of it and just hit some shots and pay attention to the ball. Even if you don't like the shot you hit, watch it roll out, watch it to a finish. The magic of the subconscious mind is once it's watched enough outcomes like that, it gets to be educated, it can predict them. So this is a pitching wedge. I've got a very simple little shot. Don't want to jinx myself there, but I've got a very simple little shot to that pin. A little too hard there, but I watched it all the way to the finish. And it's a fallacy, by the way, that you just keep your head down. Your head should certainly be still, but I guarantee you any great pitcher and chipper watches the ball land and watches it roll out. You can do that without lifting your whole body up. So here's another one. And I'm starting to get the feel for how that rolls. That's on a little upslope. And of course, you vary that with different club selections, different speeds of greens and hills. But let me show you two of my favorite drills that really accentuate this and will really help train your eye. So here's the drill. I'm going to go at this flagpole here. I'm going to use my favorite three clubs. In my case, that's sand wedge, a little bit more lofted than sand wedge, pitching wedge, and 8-iron. Let me try it with the sand wedge first. And I can get a feel of what to do that. Then I drop down and take my pitching wedge, only one ball at a time with each club. In other words, don't hit multiples with one club. And watch the ball roll out. Start to train your eye how different trajectories and different landing points are required. And see if you can predict ahead of time what you're doing there and get the right landing spots. Now the variation, or drill 2 if you like, you'll notice there's little alignment rods with head covers on them mimicking flags in different parts of the green. Your practice green might have multiple flags in it, or you could just put towels up there on the green. And the varied drill, let me take an 8-iron for a second, would be take a single club and try to go to the different flags. And what you'll find is the club, you'll start to learn, hey, this is a hard shot to get at with this club. And you'll start to not only train your eye and see how the ball's reacting at different heights, but you start to get to know your clubs. You start to see how they react in different situations and what might be easier and more difficult club choices. So that pin back there is going to be a challenge with my 8-iron. I'm going to really have to bounce it across the rough. Even then it's a little bit hard to get to. Obviously it would be the easy choice for the back center pin, etc. So train your eye. There's no shortcut, I'm afraid, folks. You've got to see a lot of balls fly, you've got to watch them roll out, and you've got to experience what your clubs do. And believe me, after just a few hours of practice, you'll have a whole different sense of picking landing spots and picking the best club choices for yourself. So like anything, folks, it's just the truth of it. It takes time to develop skill. It takes time to train your eye. There's just no shortcut for it. It's like trying to ride a bike. You can tell people about it, but sooner or later, they've got to get on the bike and make some mistakes and experience it for themselves. And I would encourage you, I always used to love to practice chipping, particularly if it was kind of peaceful and quiet like it is here. Take a favorite drink out there with you, take breaks, and enjoy your time on it. Anything you enjoy more, you'll tend to do more. And it's just the magic of the mind. Just time on task will train it. Now, if you really struggle, if you're really miss hitting the balls, your data kind of gets skewed then. You're not seeing what the clubs can do. So just ditch it temporarily. Go back to some of the drills, get solid contact established again, and get back to it. One other thing you might do that for your own amusement and your own training when you're on the golf course, if you've holed out or if you're already up near the hole and you've marked your ball and a playing partner has a chip shot, the moment they hit it, or at least the moment it lands, see if you can predict to yourself, hey, that's going to be long or short or about right. See if you can train your eye a little bit looking at their shots. They don't have to know you're doing it. A really experienced veteran player would pretty much invariably be able to say long, short, or decent moments after contact with the ball and pretty much be able to predict that. Have some fun with this, train your eye, and it'll be one more thing that makes you a good chipper.